Welcome to today's edition of Youth Voices for the 2023 general elections in Nigeria. Elections in Nigeria have been nothing but a charade. It's like the tricks, politics. For Nigerian elections, we see more tricks than we see reality. But each time there's an election in Nigeria, hopes rise that a change that will bring what Nigerians are expecting will happen. It is surprising to people like me to know that Nigerians are still putting a lot of faith and hope in elections. But can you blame them? Because by the time we go through each election and somebody starts governing and they start taking us backward, as it has been the condition in the many years, especially these recent times, everybody normally will hope for the better. But is that going to happen this time around? There's a lot of tension in Nigeria as we speak. But in that tension, there's also a lot of hope in the mind and heart, especially of the young people who are expecting that this is their time to take control of the helms of affairs of the so-called giant of Africa, Nigeria, and really make it a giant of Africa. With me in the studio today to discuss what the youth, Nigerian youth in particular, can or will do if the presidential elections of this year is rigged or annulled, is Honorable Paul Chigbu. Honorable Paul Chigbu will be our discussant today. We will field questions with him about that will help us understand what is going on in the elections. Honorable Chigbu, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, thank you.
You are welcome.
Thanks. Okay. One of the things that is very demanding for everybody watching Nigeria's election, especially this one coming up, is what are the stakes in this election? What are the stakes? Can you take that up right now, Honorable Chigbu? What are the stakes in the current elections in Nigeria?
Okay, thank you very much. Well, there are a lot of stakes. Let me focus on the summary of what's actually at stake right now. Nigeria, for at least the past 8 years, has experienced the worst setback, be it politically, economically, and otherwise. And right now, this election that is coming up on 25th of February 2022 is one of those elections that if Nigerians don't get it right, things will go from bad to worst. So right now, there are so many things that is at stake in Nigeria. Talking about insecurity, the thing is at its apex right now. There is virtually any state in Nigeria that is without some form of insecurity or some sort of agitation or pro-group that is not happy with one or two decisions of the government. Even right now, the most prevalent issue we have is the issue of cash scarcity, which is people have money and they can't even access their money from the banks because the newly designed Naira notes are not available for people to access. People have already deposited their old Naira notes. Right now, they can't access the new ones. There's also the issue of fuel scarcity and all that. So these are very serious issues that are currently at stake. And this 2022 election, February 25th election, presidential election, will of course, is expected to, for Nigerians to use it to address some of these issues at stake by making the right choices of a candidate that they perceive, in their own opinion, will be able to turn around all that is at stake right now.
Okay, thank you. That is interesting. That is interesting. Now, what hopes are raised by this election? There's the situation of the country is so hopeless, but what hopes are raised by this election, this 25th February 2023 election, when a president is expected to be elected to replace Muhammad Buhari?
Okay. Well, for me, I think there are a lot of hopes. I think for the first time in the history of Nigeria, we saw a massive participation of youth. From the record that INEC recently, of course, published, we saw that many youths, for the first time in the history of Nigeria, registered to participate in an election. That, for me, is a hope on its own. We also saw for the first time that the women also registered in their large numbers. And again, from the statistics and the records of INEC, it is clear that it is the youth and the women that for the first time in the history of Nigeria will determine who becomes the next president of Nigeria come February 25th. So for me, I think that's a lot of hope. But again, there is also this hope that comes from the candidate, the presidential candidate of various parties. You see, it used to be in Nigeria, it used to be more of a two-party system where you usually have the APC, which is the current ruling party, the All Progressive Party in Nigeria. We also used to have the People's Democratic Party. So usually before now, in Nigeria, since 1999 till now, all the presidents of Nigeria have been produced by either of these parties. So it used to be more of two-party system. So the presidential candidate of the PDP and APC used to dominate and possibly swallow the rest of the parties. But for the first time, there is a new party that seems to have been generally accepted by the youth, that actually their candidates, Mr. P2B, seems to have motivated the youth to register in their large numbers. And if you follow the trend of the campaign so far, you could see that, again, for the first time in Nigeria, it is more like a three-party system instead of two-party system. So the three presidential candidates of Labour Party, PDP and APC are right there at the front line of this presidential race. And for me, I think, again, that brings hope. That is an indication that Nigerians are tired of the usual, so they want to try something new. And if you look at that Labour Party, their presidential campaign, Mr. P2B, their campaign strategy is that a new Nigeria is possible. And I agree. And you could see that Nigerians, from all indications, looking at the turnout, the organic mass turnout of the youth, mostly during the campaign of Labour Party presidential candidates, you could see that the youth, especially, are coming up they are beginning to understand that it is their right and it is in their hands to determine the fate of Nigeria. They seem to understand and believe in the cause of new Nigeria. So I think the idea of new Nigeria that the Labour Party presidential candidate, Mr. P2B, portrays, for me, I think that is a hope on its own. And these are some of the hope that I see. So I believe that indeed there are some hope. There are some indications of new Nigeria, and things are not as usual. I think there are a few changes in the frontline candidates. It's no longer the usual PDP used to have and APC used to have before. Now we have another party. There's also even the fourth one, though they don't seem to be doing very well. But in the north, they are doing very well. The NNPP, led by his presidential candidate, Mr. Rabiu Kwankwaso. So they were doing very well earlier, but I think somehow they seem to drop tempo. But even at that, in the north, they are still there and they are making waves. So these are hope for that come 25th of February, that there is possibility that we may see a different sort of election. And then finally is the issue, the hope that comes with the new technology, electoral technology, which is the BVAS, that has just been introduced by the INEC and which has been accepted as a tool to conduct this year's presidential election. So the technologies also bring some sort of hope to the very system. But finally, too, and above all, is the fact that there was a new electoral law, that was the amended electoral law, was signed by Mr. President Muhammadu Buhari into law. So which means electronic transmission and then the electronic, what I call a forensic auditing of whatever results INEC will publish has now been accepted by law. So it's now by law, there is a law backing up electronic transmission of election results in Nigeria. So all these things bring hope that this election will not go like the usual ones.
That is interesting. That is very interesting to know. Can you throw any more light on exactly how the BVAS is going to help put some credibility to the elections that is coming? Do you have an idea how the BVAS and the new electoral law can give credence or credibility to the election results when they finally come?
Yes, of course. Okay, let me start by telling you a little bit about the BVAS. So the BVAS is a technology that adopts, it makes it possible for election results to be transmitted live from the very polling unit straight on the net to a database that is public and everybody can see it no matter where you are in the world. So the interesting part of the technology is that it provides different ways of accreditation. So unlike the ones we have used before, BVAS makes it possible for you to use your PVC to be accredited. It's also possible for you, suppose for instance, you forget your PVC or for no reason, or whatever reasons, you are not with your PVC. BVAS also makes it possible for you to be accredited using other means of identifications like the fingerprint, like facial recognitions and others. So in itself, if someone is not able to find or has lost his or her PVC within the time frame, before the election, or for whatever is maybe as a result of crowd during the election or whatever, he loses his or her PVC, the person is also able to, BVAS makes it possible for the person to be able to vote, to be accredited, and then be able to vote. So the fact that the results of the election will be uploaded live from the polling unit straight to a public database where everyone can see it makes rigging very difficult, if not impossible. Okay, so, and then there's also the interesting thing which comes with the BVAS is the fact that the database in question can also be subjected to forensic investigation should there be doubts, in the election. So it makes the results quite fast and transparent. It makes the system quite transparent. So, and I think that is one good thing. That is one of the best news so far that we have, and that's what has actually make people at least for once feel that their vote will count. One of the problems we've had in Nigeria over the years is the fact that why many people, youth especially, don't participate in elections is because, at least in their numbers, is because there is this feeling that no matter what they do, whomever they want to win will win. So the elections don't count. But Beavers restored for once that the hope gave them at least an indication that for once that their vote will count this time. So I think that is one of the things, advantages of Beaver. But that's also talking about the electoral law. Electoral, there are a lot of things there. I'm not a lawyer, I'm a technology person. So I might not be able to elaborate in details. But one of the things that electoral law, because there has been an experiment, even the Beavers was used in Osun State election that took place late last year. And that was what they used to experiment the Beavers, the use of Beavers, and even the interpretation of the electoral laws. So one of the things I saw in the system is that the litigations, like the electoral processes, if somebody, for instance, says, oh, I was rigged out, or the things didn't go as expected, this didn't go transparently, he has the right to go to court. Then the new electoral law makes it possible for the court processes to be concluded within a very short period of time, and that allows whoever is declared the winner, the rightful winner, to concentrate and start providing the dividends of democracy to the people. Very much unlike before, where the litigation process can take years. I've seen a situation where the governor was elected and he spent almost 1 year plus or 2 years plus, and then his election was annulled, and then he starts all over, and then he leaves again, and there's a new election, and the man will be distracted almost all through his tenure as maybe a governor, whatever position, political position the person will be occupying. So this in the past has given a lot of setback to the concentration that whoever has won the election needs to put in place and to start providing and living by some of the promises that he has given the people or the electorate while campaigning. So I think that's one of the benefits that we derive from the new electoral law. There are other ones which I may not be able to elaborate on. So maybe some other time when we have this meeting, I'll be able to come up with some of them.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And well, good things are great, and this Beaver sounds great. And for somebody and with the expertise to describe it with such confidence, that feels so good. But I have this worry with Nigeria and new things. Every time it is the problem with Nigeria is not the problem of finding technology and finding opportunities and things to do. It is our capacity to thwart the purpose of everything. I think there's this funny saying that they were testing equipment all over the world, and those equipment was functioning, and it was meant to catch thieves. But the day they tested it in Lagos, the equipment itself got lost. You have expressed so much hope with the Beavers. Let's hope that the Nigerian system will not enter this Beavers issue, so that it will serve its purpose, because it's high time Nigeria starts getting things and the elections right. Okay, so now let's talk about something that is connected to the hopes that have been raised by this election and all the preparations made for it. What if on the 25th of February 2023, this election finishes and the results come out, and the hopes and aspirations of the majority of Nigerians, especially the Nigerian youth, was achieved? What will happen? What would that cause? What will happen to Nigeria? What is going to be the next thing if that hope is achieved? That is the aspirations of majority of Nigerians, especially the youth. If it's achieved, what's going to happen?
Okay. Well, I believe once we get, the next thing is to, for whomever eventually uh, to give their votes to, to start working. And I think um, whoever eventually becomes the president will get to work and start working, starting with the most prevalent and the most disturbing files that are at stake, like the issue of security, which I think is the most important factors and stakes that we have right now. Because, as I said earlier, there are a lot of issues in Nigeria, a lot of problems. So I think whoever Nigerians feel is a person that can make those changes for them, once is realized, once that privilege is given to the person via the polls, the person should get to work and firstly start, in my opinion, I think the first things first. So the first thing should be to address the issue of security. I believe that once security is addressed properly, and other things will now follow suit, because it doesn't matter, even the food scarcity and some of these things we're having, even the issue of fuel, the issue of naira design, all these things are just issues that are connected to policies, but none of these things will function. None of these policies will function if the security is not functioning. So I think that should be the primary thing that should be achieved. Then once we have security, then our people can return to farm, and then the food will be available for us to eat. Then the other issue of economy, one of the presidential aspirants, Mr. P2B, believes that he has, for instance, the ability to make Nigeria, change Nigeria from a consumption state to a production state. So, and I think, again, those things will not happen unless the issue of security is well addressed. So I think the primary thing to do is to address the issue of security. I think once that is properly addressed, the other things will follow suit. Then that gradual shift from consumption to production will be initiated. And then one other major problem Nigeria has is the issue of power. So I think, again, if we get power rights, get our security rights, and the work on the economy, I think Nigeria, the new Nigeria, will kick off from that place.
Okay, I think you put it in the way of the work that needs to be done. It's not just about if the expected person gets in there, the person that the youth expect, then the person need to go to work at, and I think that is a must. But what if those hopes are dashed on the 25th of February? The election holds. The person that commands the popularity or the popular opinion or the interest of the youth and majority of Nigerians did not emerge or didn't get declared as the winner of the election. What could happen?
See, that's a very strong question. I've myself, I've thought about this, looking at the way Nigerian youths have been going about the campaign, how they respond, how they be supporting their candidates, especially the candidate of Labour Party, Mr. P2B, who seem to be commanding the majority of the support from the youth. I do not know what will happen should the hope get dashed on 25th of February. But this is what I will say. The way they have expressed their love for him, if eventually he doesn't win, there are procedures that in other countries that where such things have happened, There are procedures that they have followed, and they eventually get whom they want to lead them, because it's about the majority of Nigerians and what they want. I think Nigeria is for everybody. Nobody owns Nigeria more than another one. All of us have equal rights to ownership of Nigeria and membership of and the citizens of Nigeria. So I think that they will follow those same steps. They should think about it. For instance, maybe some protests, but whatever they do, my own recommendation is that it should be done within the ambit of the law. So, and they should remain law-abiding and follow processes that the law permits, and to make their vexation or their disappointment known, and to make their points known by everybody, even the world, that this is whom they want. And I think if they do that, eventually they will get the right candidate to be there. But I think for me, I'm one person who my philosophy of life generally, especially the issue of security, preventive. So for me, I think the best thing they can do, the best way to avoid all the trauma that comes with coming to stay on the streets, going around the city, or shutting the corner and doing other things that may seem illegal, the best way is to ensure that on 25th of February 2022, the presidential election, they will ensure that that doesn't even happen in the first place. They will ensure that nobody takes their rights. They will ensure that whomever they want is the person that goes through in their various polling units. That, for me, is the best way. Instead of fathoming of what will happen after if the hope is dashed, we ensure that hope doesn't get dashed. So for me, that is the best way to go about it. Don't let it happen.
Let me cut you in there. How can the youth, the Nigerian youth, prevent? How can they achieve what you are talking about? How can they come out? What would they do when they come out? What activities, what actions, what steps, legal steps, nothing illegal at all, but things that are right that they can do on the election day to enable them achieve their hopes in this election? What can they really do? Specifics this time, if possible.
Of course, there are so many things that the youth can do. One of them is, which is what is prevalent in Nigeria political system, is issue of bribing. In fact, every political crime is mostly committed using the youth. They are usually the tools for politicians to use to perpetrate whatever they want to perpetrate or they had ever perpetrated. So it is simple. One of the things they will do is to believe in the vision of new Nigeria. That's one. So thereby avoiding collecting bribes. If somebody comes to you and say, bros, take this, go there, scatter there, carry the ballot paper, take the beavers machine, do this and that, you will say no. For me, my recommendation is collect the money, because it's also your money, but don't do the thing. Don't go and provide the work. So you collect the money and go home and do otherwise. That's one thing they can do. Another thing they will do is to ensure that the beavers that is brought in their place, is they will be able to see the records. Like, for instance, the number of people that are accredited, they will be sure that as at the time that accreditation is starting, there will not be any record in the beavers that it is zero accreditation number. So, because one of the things, smart ways that these people can go about rigging, or any politician can go about rigging, because politicians are capable of anything, they can do some pre-configurations, so where by the time that the machine comes to a particular place, there's already a certain number of people who are accredited, and then, because the voting itself is manual, so the beavers' job is to do electronic accreditation, and they used as a tool to transmit the results of the election. So if they can ensure that the accreditation is successful and perfect, that the number of people that are available in the polling units are the number of people that the machine report that are accredited. That is one way to ensure that for each polling unit, that those people there who are present are the only ones whose details were accredited in the machine, the beavers machine that is brought to the unit. So this is one thing they will have to specifically. If they do that, the eventual thing that will happen is that the result cannot be more than the number of people accredited. And of course, the number of people accredited are genuine people, and also the vote will be, because what will happen is that if there are more number of people, for instance, that are accredited in a particular polling unit, and once the other ones finish, since it's a manual, the voting itself will be manual, and then they can just carry the rest of the papers to complete the number of people who are accredited. So at the end of the day, you may see that the result may go otherwise. So these are some of the ways. Then another way which they can ensure that whomever they want actually emerges is to stay there until the result is declared, to protect their votes, to ensure that no security officer will be paid to come and do anything. They will also reject the temptation of collecting money to serve as political talks for anybody. So I think if what they need to do is just very simple. It's just for everybody to return to their polling units and ensure that each polling unit is the accreditation process is perfect, and then the number of accredited people also will not be more than the number of people who have voted. So, and then of course they will also stay and ensure that they will stay there until the results is announced, and they will verify on that. So I think this 3-step alone, this one would go a long way in helping them to ensure that whomever they truly want emerges and prevent the issues of going to go through the hazard of trying to restore a lost glory.
Okay, and this brings to a question as you spoke about the beavers and the accreditation. Does the law provide that at the end of accreditation, the beavers figures showing at any beavers machine at any location is available for the public to view? Is that part of the provision? Is it provided? Can those who are at polling booths see the total number of accredited voters before voting starts?
Of course, that is what the one advantage that comes with the use of beavers. Of course, the beavers we provide the details of number of people, but sometimes because of crowd and timing of our elections, what you notice is that, especially in the rural areas, there are challenges of network. There are other challenges of arrival of electoral officers who come to the polling very late. So when they come, things will be rushed. So sometimes people are in a haste so they just want to go. So they don't even want to worry. So sometimes electoral officers who are compromised take advantage of the timing to commit those kinds, so they won't be able to show the people the number of accredited people before. But normally, those who are accredited, they'll be mentioning the names of those who are accredited as they come. They hand over the voting materials to them. That is how it's done. So definitely, they will mention the name of everybody there. And so I think that again, what you have asked is another way that the youth can ensure that it happens, to ensure that they will see the total number of people who are accredited before the elections will start. So they'll be able to count amongst themselves and be sure that the number does not exceed the number of people there. But again, there are a lot of factors that might affect this, which is the fact that somebody can accredit and then leave because of time to go and take care of something also. Sometimes some of them may end up not coming back. Sometimes some of them will come late. They won't be there for people to count and all that. But the most important thing is to ensure that at the end of the day, or the total number of people who are accredited doesn't exceed the number of votes cast.
Okay, thank you. That is very much and very helpful to know that one can get this information on site and be able to respond to them. Now, I think it was in 1993 that Nigeria held an election in which the uh, MKO Abiola, Chief MKO Abiola, was presumed to have won that election. Now, that election was considered the only time that Nigerians actually voted in real sense. And that election is still considered as the most credible so far. But the Nigerian military that were conducting the election for transition to civilian rule woke up one day and annulled that election. A lot of conspiracy theories have been wondering how this election will go. Many people believe that power cannot be taken away from the northern Nigeria. And a lot of people are already fearing and expressing their fears what could happen. And one of the issues we have, and of course the theme of this discourse, is what will happen if the election is obviously rigged, or it's not even rigged, the results are out by beavers, everybody almost knows what has happened in every corner of Nigeria and have their statistics, and then somebody steps in and annuls the election. What can Nigerian youth do, or Nigerian generally, because this is not about just Nigerian youth? What can Nigerians do in these modern times if that kind of heinous crime is committed upon them at the end of this election?
Okay, for once, let me speak as one of the Nigerian youths. I'll be very specific. If this happens, the result is anarchy. Just is as simple as that. Is the best word to describe what will happen. I think it's best described as anarchy. So there will be an anarchy everywhere. Everybody will feel it, and they will know for once. You know, there was a couple of years back, we had what is called NSAS protest. It's a kind of protest that didn't have a leader, but it was happening virtually everywhere, especially in the southern part of Nigeria. There was no leader, but you see protests, nobody is leading it because people feel they've been hurt, people feel they've endured certain things for long. But again, speaking a little bit professionally now, let me say this. I do not perceive I do not see any indication that the military will be taking over or coming to annoy a democratically elected president or election just on the grounds of, I don't see any grounds for that. Now, if you compare 1993 and the time you were talking about the election took place, at that time, it was a period where the military was very much at the helm of affairs. They were just making an attempt to go into democracy. So more or less, the very panels and most of the people who even conducted the election were military. So the military was still at power now. But right now, since 1990 now, we have had a very successful democratically elected presidents and successions. So I do not envisage anything like military takeover. The area that I'm concerned is the other statement where you said certain people believe that power cannot leave the North. I don't think so too, because in 1999, since we started pure democracy, it was the South that started it, President Olusegun Obasanjo. So, and then after him came the Yaradua, the late Yaradua, who is from the North. And then eventually, because of his health, he died along the line. And President Goodluck Jonathan from the South took over. I think that was, even he had an election that was quite free, relatively free and fair too. So where he also won, and he became the president from the South. So, and then eventually, President Muhammadu Buhari was then again elected from the north. So it has been going from south to north, south to north. So it isn't the first time that power will be leaving the north. So someone from the south had been president. So, but all that I think is going on is some what I call fanatic religious fanatics, sort of, who believes that the Christian cannot rule Muslim. I think that's where we're having the issue. That's the only thing that looks quite new, because if you assess most of the northern president or even the southern, some of them have been mostly Muslim and all that. So I do not, that's where the issues come. But there are very few in nature, because most Nigerians are more enlightened now. We know better. So I do not think that there will be an issue with regards to annulment of any sort based on the grounds of military coming in, or maybe someone from north and this and that. The only issue, again, which I must say, is that there has been that rotation from north to south. So right now, the north has been there for 8 years. So the south feels is their turn. So the only issue we may have is the situation where someone again from the north happens to win. So the south will see it as sabotage, and there may be some reactions from that side.
Okay, thank you. But I've had some of these stories coming out from Nigerian news, and even in the social media, on YouTube, and even by the newspapers themselves. Nasir El-Rufai, APC governor of Kaduna State, was quoted as saying that P2B cannot win the election. And he was saying that in a television interview. And he mentioned that the reason why he can't win the election is that he doesn't have the number of states. He said out of Nigeria, Nigeria's 6 geopolitical zones, he said it's so-called geopolitical zones, 43% of the country's 93.5 million registered voters are located in the northwest and the southwest. Okay. So personally, this kind of statement smacks of tribal connotations and all of that. And also, Atiku Abubakar was quoted as saying that what the Northerner needs is a candidate from the north, not Igbo, not Yoruba. So with that kind of vibe coming from these key elements of the north, do you sincerely feel that the north is ready for transition at this time?
Well, let me start with the issue of the governor of Kaduna State, Mr. El-Rufai. His statements was, I think, more of something that came because he has small beef with the presidential candidate of Labour Party, Mr. P2B. Because he started with when P2B was the governor of Anambra State, when he went to the state on election day, and he was not allowed to move around, and there was some sort of hostage in his hotel and all that. So he claimed that it was P2B who was, of course, the governor, the chief security officer, who authorized that to happen to him. So, and since then, he has had some sort of grudge against him. So I think his opinion was quite personal, and it was just around because of that beef he had with Mr. P2B. But again, the same El-Rufai, you must also remember, sir, recently in one of the interviews he had recently during the issue of Naira note swap and all that. So you also mentioned that the same El-Rufai that said P2B didn't have any state and structure. He even mentioned that P2B could win at least 16 states. So the same El-Rufai. So which means he's beginning to see from somebody who didn't have structure, who didn't have any states, to someone who now had 16 states and is becoming a threat to them. You can see that obviously he's beginning to see the reality and he's beginning to see that he's wrong. Even the things that he's doing right now, he's the one that took President Muhammad Buhari to court with the governor of Kogi State, Yahaya Bello, and that of Zamfara. So you see, he's desperate about these things because he still wants to do anything to ensure that that doesn't happen. But Yorufa is just an individual. He's only going to just give one vote. And that's all. Things have changed. Things with the beavers coming, you can't even coerce people a lot to go and do this and that. People have right now to vote whomever that you will not even know. So the governor can only speak for himself. It's just an electorate, just one election, one vote. He can simply say, okay, his vote will not go for the. But let me also inform you, sir. The P2B's vice presidential candidate, Mr. Dati Baba Ahmed, is also from Kaduna State, and the level at which people accepted him. In fact, when P2B held his rally in Kaduna State, if you see the turnout, the massive turnout, organic turnout, you will not even, you'll be shocked to notice that P2B could attract that number of people in Kaduna State. Eurofa even boasted that they will not see 100 and something, more than 100 or two. But I saw thousands, the same Kaduna State. So invariably, I do not think that there is anything to worry about in Eurofa. I think it's just about beef, and somebody who is angry with somebody will find a new way to attack him. But it's just a state, and I don't think that will have any significant impact in the electoral system. Talking about Atiku Abubakar's again statements, I do not. Atiku Abubakar is someone who has contested for election for at least some number of times now. So, and he wants to become a president by all means. He has invested a lot of money in elections. So, and I think for me, he's just saying he wants this time. He knows that perhaps this is his last time, so he wants to fight to finish. So definitely he will say a lot of things because the North has the highest number of voters, and of course, as someone who is coming from there, it is natural that he will do anything to persuade his people. So I think it was just on that note that those statements, that statement was made. So I do not think that that statement will have any impact in the system.
Okay, thank you. That is very good. I think it's great that you're able to understand and illustrate these things this way. Now, let's run on our last line here. What would you may have said it before, but if you can cap it up again, your counsel, your advice, and encouragement for the Nigerian youth and populace to make sure that this election can come out with reasonable credibility and will also be free and fair. Any counsels?
Well, it's like you said, I've almost said it, but let me put it in summary form as a counsel now. This country, this election that is coming up on 25th of this month is very crucial election. Crucial for so many reasons. One of them is that if we don't get it right on 25th, there may be Nigeria situations and current hardship and all that worsen. And it's already affecting everybody. So I think it's important that Nigerian youth understand that it is our responsibility to ensure that Nigeria doesn't degenerate to anarchy. And I want to appeal to all Nigerian youth to please do not go into this election based on religious sentiments or ethnicity. Let us seek out credible candidates, someone that we think or believe or convince in our view, who has a track record of integrity, success, and of course, reliability, and cast our vote for that person and get our family people to cast a vote for that person. Let us think Nigeria and the sources. Look at how we can move Nigeria forward. Let's not allow ourselves to be used by cheap propagandas or political propagandas that will make us miss it. Because once we miss it this time, it might be difficult to come together again, in my view. So I think we need to get it right, and we need to do everything possible. For me, I believe that a new Nigeria is possible, and I want to encourage fellow youth to please believe same and make commitment towards it. Words alone will not achieve it. We must act. We must take action. Let's advise ourselves. Let's not allow ourselves to be used by the adults and our fathers to destroy Nigeria. It will affect everybody. It will affect, including our fathers and ourselves. Also remember, especially those of us who are the middle and lower classes, we must remember that it is us that will suffer more, because the rich will leave the country. It's just a question of days. They are out of the country, or weeks. They are out. It is Nigerians who don't have the means that will eventually suffer. So I want to appeal to them to please seize this opportunity and see 25th of February as an opportunity once again to redeem and return Nigeria to one united Nigeria, peaceful, and thereby making this election to have the record of being the best, freest election and most credible election Nigeria will record.
Thank you very much, Honorable Paul Chigbu, for being with us on today's edition of Youth Voices for the 2023 general elections in Nigeria. It has been a pleasure having you. Have a great day.
Thank you.